And this afternoon, government is still scouting for cheaper sources of fuel. Just days after President Akufo-Addo's address on the state of the economy, fuel prices have skyrocketed once more. Now, a litre of petrol is now selling at 17.99 and diesel at 23 cedis per litre. And in a bid to contain the fast escalating price of fuel on the market, the president indicated in his last address that government was exploring measures of securing cheaper sources of fuel.
I know that the increasing cost of living is the #1 concern for all of us. It is driven by fast escalating fuel prices at the pumps, which is caused by high crude oil prices on the world market and our depreciated currency. I know that this is putting intolerable pressure on families and businesses. I know that people are being driven to make choices they should not have to make. And I know that it has led to the devaluation of capital of traders and painfully accumulated savings. Furthermore, government is working to secure reliable and regular sources of affordable petroleum products for the Ghanaian market. It is expected that this arrangement, when successful, coupled with a stable currency, will halt the escalation of fuel prices and bring relief to us all.
Well, JoyNews is already learning that some of the transport unions are making a case again for transport fares to go up. Just 2 days ago, 19% was the latest increment that took effect after GPRTU met the president, indicating that the figures were pegged on the assurances the president gave that fuel prices would no longer go up. So hence, of course, we're expecting that GPRTU will be back on the table with new price guidelines. But before we get into all of that, hearing from GPRTU, I want to bring in Dr. Suleiman Yusuf, who's an energy policy analyst, looking at all of the figures for us. He's been with us all throughout the day. I'm grateful, Doc, for your time here on the polls as well. Now, let's start off with the cheaper sources of fuel that the president is counting for. What are the options now, and where possibly can we be getting that from?
Yeah, thank you very much. Blessed. Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Yes, indeed. If that were to materialize into, concrete gains, or quantifiable gains, it will have impact on the market. Energy security, as I always mention, will have 3 dimensions. Energy has to be affordable, energy has to be dependable, and then also energy has to be, cheaper. That's the affordability, yes. And of course, the quality of energy is also key to energy security. So if we can be guaranteed of a source of energy that is cheaper, and affordable, that is cheaper and affordable, I think, with high quality, I think that is the way to go.
However, as to where we're getting that from, I guess that's where the challenge is, because the markets are not as open now as they used to be in the past. I'm not sure we can get it from all of the sources, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's going to be a challenge, but I think it's not something that is not surmountable. Over the years, actually, I have been calling for the fact that we needed to have diversified, our portfolio in terms of where we are getting this finished products from. Mostly, I think we are heavily dependent on, from Europe in most of these finished products. Unfortunately, Africa, we haven't had that much. That would have been the best and credible conduit and the cheaper conduit to be able to get that. Now, Africa, of course, Dangote refinery is not available, it's not yet on stream. So our main source at the moment is Europe. Now, the other possible sources that I am thinking about in my mind is Russia, #1, and also #2 is the GCC states.
That obviously would have been the option. But looking at the fact that we're negotiating with the IMF, the West, quote unquote, we need liquidity from that side as well. I'm not sure that our government will attempt dealing with Russia at this point, particularly when we've also publicly condemned Russia in this whole crisis. So we're sort of locked up, especially on our own words.
Yes, You're correct. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be dicey, but it's something that can always be worked out. Behind the scene. However, it's going to be. Yes, we are dealing with IMF. I mean, which statement that we have made in the past were unfortunate, as a matter of fact, because we should behave like a neutral partner. In the sense that this war is quite, a dicey one. It's a double-edged sword if you want to approach it in any way possible. I mean, Russia is not the main player. They are the second largest in terms of crude oil production. Gas, they are forces to reckon with. And so Russia is a place that potential we could have, fuel sources. Now, the other source that I mentioned, is the GCC states. For sure, most of these fuel products that we are taking from, Europe, they are coming from the Gulf cooperation nations. Now, what they have done that have secured their energy security, that have secured their currency, and I can tell you on record, you can check it, almost all the Gulf states, and where I am for the past 20 years, the dollar to their local currency has been the same, regardless of whatever happened. And it's not any, any record science, rocket science. What you need to do is, if you are an oil producer and you also have a refinery, what you need to do is you have to just link up your upstream and your downstream, because time will come where the downstream is going to be very hot and you need the upstream to support that. And time will come where the upstream is going to be very hot and you also need the downstream to support that. Yes, and if you don't link them up and make them strong and robust, you will find yourself in this situation. So this inevitable that we find ourselves, it's not surprising, because the kind of method that we've been operating, where we export everything that we produce as in crude oil and import everything as we consume as a hydrocarbon product or petroleum product, that can never guarantee us energy security. And bear in mind, our situation is critical because about 8% of our GDP is dependent on imports of petroleum products. The downstream has ballooned. So what we should have done over the years is to have made sure that we have we have a backup. And a refinery is a credible backup. Why can't we have a refinery in Ghana that can work? So that in times like this, it's not that you are going to stop your importation. A refinery is always a buffer. So that at the point in time, the market is very hot. You can always do what I call using the upstream to support the downstream and the downstream to support the upstream. The other one that I think that we haven't done so well, that has brought us on our knees at this moment in time, is our ability to have massive storage capability.
Passcode 4302.
We're having some interference there from Samuel Amwa. He is with the GPRTU. They're mounting pressure for, of course, prices of transport to also go up. So we'll get into that briefly. And then we'll hear from some more experts. But Dr. Yusuf, the issue about where we are now and what the outlook will be. 17.99 for petrol. Diesel is trading somewhere around 23, you see this. Where do you see this ending? Dr. Yusuf, where do you see all of this ending?
Yeah, so it's scary. It's hard to see where it's going to end. But I mean, if you put the right strategies in place, the main thing is for us to be able to stabilize the dollar. If we can do that in the shortest possible time, I think that we have to bring some relief before we can think about strategies. But there are quite a lot of strategies that we can still endanger. I mean, embark on to be able to get ourselves free from all these situations. Number one, what I mentioned about linking the upstream and downstream is very key. By short-term measure, I mean, we can still bring together all our three players, the government of Ghana, NPA, and then the PSP, that's petroleum service providers, to look at what can be done in unison, in terms of a kind of relief, let's say taxes or whatever, that can be done to a bit cool down the pump for the consumer. And also, one thing I also mentioned is the fact that, I mean, we have to diversify. Why don't you, encourage the importation of these EV cars? And I can always give China as an example. China is the second largest petroleum consumer, and they have the most penetration in terms of EV cars. Because in times like this, if we actually had a diversified portfolio where we don't have so much pressure on dependence on hydrocarbon products, I think it itself would relieve the pressure. And it's not the fact that EVs are going to come and the hydrocarbon products are going to go down the drain. That can never happen. Hydrocarbon product will still be with us. But in situations like this, if you have a diversified portfolio, it actually relieves you a bit of pressure. And if you care to know, those who use the hybrid cars, I think they consume far less fuel than those of us who use petrol-run engine. So yes, taxes is something we can look at. I don't think it's off the table, but I think we have to bring all the players together, to be able to look at these taxes. Yeah. So, but overall, these are the strategies that I think we can do. And if actually we champion these strategies, blessed, right, they will even indirectly have impact on our currency. It will undoubtedly stabilize our currency if we do them. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, if we're to take any of the tax components out, where should we be targeting? Because you raised that point.
Yeah, so we have a lot of what I call nuisance taxes. Nuisance taxes, in my opinion, are taxes that have outlived their useful life. There was a time, that the candidate that comes to mind is the SPT. That is something that the government can look at. We have price stabilizing levy. In fact, that should have been the thing that should come on table. Because price stabilizing levy was put in place for times like this. When the situation becomes volatile, we'll kick it in to be able to stabilize the market. I know the market has already burned. We should have done that earlier on. The market has already burned to the extent that, most of these taxes might not have that quantifiable impact that we want to. But I think it is still something that we can consider. And considering that, we have to bring all other players that I talked about, the PSP, that's Petroleum Service Providers, and then also the regulator. All of them, they all have some part to play. Because at the end of the day, what is the use? Blessed, if you remove a tax and a PSP increase the premium, it will just nullify the tax. So that's actually why I think if we want to go that way, we have to bring all these players together at the end of the day so that the consumer can benefit whenever there's any tax drop. And then other ones that I think about is the upstream side. But it's a dicey area where we always talk about the windfall taxes. But that one, the government can sit down with our IOCs to see what they can help. Magnanimous, in terms of just goodwill, let me put it that way. Because yes, upstream is benefiting. Unfortunately, our share of the upstream portfolio is meager. So we can sit down with our IOCs. It's been something that is talked about globally. Everybody's looking at what they call something that you can cascade from where you have strategic advantage to where you are burning up. And in this case, if also the government can sit down with them and they can reason and see what they can give out in terms of the profit, that will also help.
Okay. I'm grateful that you've been able to join us this afternoon. Dr. Yusuf Sulemana is an energy specialist. But now let's hear from the drivers as well. They're mounting pressure, asking government to revise the lorry fares again. 19% just 2 days ago. GPRTU is back again, making some new proposals. Let's hear from Samuel Amwa, and then I'll tell you about some more guests who are joining us on this matter. Samuel, here we are. Just last week, I believe, you engaged the president and you indicated on the probe with MFR Powell that the reason for which you agreed on the 19% was because the president had given assurances that fuel prices will come down. It's up again, so I believe you're asking for more, correct?
Thank you very much. Let me say good afternoon to your viewers. What is happening is that, yes, we met the president exactly last week. And then, as we earlier said, the negotiation was like we were asking for 40%. Finally, we arrived at 19. And then the reason why we accepted the 19 was that the president gave us an assurance that they are going to work on things to make sure that the next pricing window, the fuel will not, get to where it is now. That was what they told us before we agreed on the 19th. Then the next day, we find out that it has gone up to 16 point, something. But as of today, checking the pump now, diesel is about 23.49, and the fuel petrol too is about 17.99. And then now the problem now with our drivers is our expectations, are not met. Because what the president told us was that the fuel, they are not going to increase it to that extent again. But since it has been increased, now I think the best thing for us to do is also review our transport fares, because we have no option.
Will that not be too much for your customers to bear? You've just done 19%. You want to go up again?
Yes, my brother. Yes, we are talking of it will be too much on the passengers. Yes, we know it's going to be a burden on the passengers, but let's think about the driver too. You know, I told you that before we went for this negotiation, we were asking of 40% because of where those components has gotten to. By the time we had this, our 20%, the fuel price was
Samuel Amwa? Okay. It appears we've lost Samuel there. Probably would. Samuel, can you hear me? Samuel, are you with us? Okay. It appears we've lost Samuel Amwa there, but definitely in the course of our programming, we'll definitely get back to GPRTU to find out exactly what their demands are. But it's clear that they've established the point that the 19% would not be enough. But let's speak to one man who says he has the plan to fix the economic challenge confronting this nation. I'm talking about Kojo Poku. He's an energy expert and also a presidential aspirant. Good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to the Pulse. It's good to be speaking to you.
I don't remember saying I have a plan.
But I've seen about a 5
pointer. Yes, 5
pointer. Yes, clearly indicating what the grand plan should be in terms of
medium to long term.
Right. In terms of responding to the crisis in which we find ourselves.
Yes.
But I want to pick up on what the president says in, first of all, dealing with the fuel price hike. Right. He says that we're looking for a cheaper source of energy, right? Would that be an easy task for government?
No, it's not. Obviously, we don't know what conversations the president is having. He's the president of the nation, and he probably privy to conversations that we are not privy to. But the bottom line is that from where I sit, I don't see how. It's a difficult one in this market because there's a global crisis. It's not only the fact that Ghana is going through this, in terms of fuel shortages and the scarcity of that product called petroleum product. It's scarce everywhere. The only people who seem to have it in abundance are the people who there's an embargo on. And there's an embargo on them for a reason.
Right.
And we in the West cannot scale that embargo and go and buy from there. So obviously, Ghana is in a fix.
So what you're basically saying is, even if there's abundance of fuel in the Russian market or wherever it is we can find it in the East, it would not be as easy trying to bring it down here.
No, Ghana is a signatory to so many legislation acts, and in
international
that it does not allow us to go. We are not like Iran. We are not like any of the rogue nations. We are a country welcomed by the West. We are negotiating with IMF. World Bank just gave us something. We are just in DC. We are really in the bosom of the West. So you can't behave like Cuba or any of the rogue nations and say, I'm going to buy crude from or petroleum product from Russia. You can't do that.
But that's where the difficulty is now. So what should be the alternative, and how do we approach this situation?
Well, like I said, none of us is privy to the conversation the president is talking about. What some of us know is that there is a conversation between Decimal Vitor and Tor. Okay? And that arrangement is for Tor to be taken over by Decimal stroke Vitor and refined locally and basically be able to sell into the market. I don't know, like I said, since he made that speech, I've been talking to a lot of people in the sector, and we all don't know what the conversation is. But like I said, he's the president.
But so on a large scale, what's the probability of that project succeeding?
Of him getting cheaper fuel?
Yes, through the arrangements.
Okay, so like I said, he's the president. I don't know the conversation he's having. From where I sit, 0 to 10, the probability of that happening is 1. Him getting cheaper fuel, from where I sit. I don't know what else he's talking to or who else he's talking to. I was very active between the His Excellency John Ejekum Kufuor's era. And I was more or less part of delegations that would go to Nigeria to talk to His Excellency Obasanjo on fuel. You know, Nigeria helped us a lot between that era. They would give us cheaper crude and gave us enough time to pay for it. We no longer have that problem we don't longer have that relationship with Nigeria. Nigeria themselves are having their own challenges. One of the things that they will have had abundance of is crude oil. They blame Ghana for aiding and abetting criminals from stealing their crude, because most of the crude stolen in Nigeria, recently there's a documentary where they caught a barge and the barge was destined to Tema. Okay, so they blame us for aiding and abetting. Maybe not all the crude comes to Ghana, but they feel that if we were better brothers to them, we could have stopped some of that. So we don't have that go and run. In the last 30 years, the most crude that has come to Tema refinery is crude from Nigeria. People have always talked of crude from Angola, from all around the world, and none of them has ever panned out. From the time, as far as I know, most of the crude that has ever come to Tema refinery has been from Nigeria.
So our best bets now will be to go back to the Nigerian market?
If they would talk to us, but they wouldn't. So that much I know.
What would it take to reverse that anyway? Because I recall from some accounts and some literature point to the fact that yes, there was a difficulty in the 70s when we're trying to repair our relations. I mean, during the Kufuor era, subsequently with Nigeria,
it was repaired.
It was repaired, and then eventually we got to, but we can go back there, isn't it?
No, it's not. Look, I don't know if you go into Nigerian politics. Right. There should be a relationship between the presidents. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know, there is really no relationship between the Nigerian administration and Ghana administration. There's none. With the issue of Guta harassing Nigerian traders, the parliament is not very happy. The House of Assembly in Nigeria is not very happy. There's the issue that came up of the embassy and all that resolution that came up, though it was resolved, but there are instances that does not make the administration very happy. And again, like I said, they feel that if we were reporting those who, imagine that there's a vessel full of crude in Ghana arrested, and we hand them over to Nigeria. That would give us some good faith, right? But we're not doing that. People are taking those stolen crude. So as far as I know, and I play heavily in the Nigerian politics and the Nigerian market, there's no relationship between the Ghana government and the Nigerian government.
So that will be another difficulty.
That will be a difficulty.
How about tackling the issue from the OMC angle?
Okay, so the OMC is private. So that's why some of us are baffled when it comes to the president saying that he is looking for, because we all know that it's a deregulated market, it's the private companies that bring in the products. So I don't know what arrangement that is going on. The people who play in this market are the BDCs who work with Vitol, Glencore, BP, and Trafigura. Okay, those are the four main traders around the world. The most predominant ones is BP and Vitol. Trafigura, yes, because they had Blue Ocean and Blue Ocean and Puma. Okay, so they have a chain. So their subsidiaries is Blue Ocean and Puma. They have not played in the market heavily as we all thought they would do. Glencore has come in with a bit of products lately, but those that are heavily playing in the market is BP. BP in the last 2-3 years have burned their fingers in this market because people owe them over $500 million in this market, yes. They are owed over $500 million as last count. So
given the current crisis,
they keep producing they keep bringing products into the market because they need to supply for their clients to be able to recover the money that is owed to them. There's a lack of Vitol. Now, Vitol is in a very difficult position because, there is this Springfield E&I thing which has Vitol in there. And because that Springfield E&I unitization has not been resolved, E&I Vitol is really not in the same boat as how they want to play in the market. But look, this all said and done, money is money. If the government is able to sit them down and give them maybe some carrots, maybe we can derive some benefits from them. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what the conversation the president is having.
The last attempt we made at trying to reduce the price artificially was to deal with our own asset, GOIL, right? It ruffled the markets. Of course, GOIL eventually was suspended out of that group. Can we go back to that approach of trying to run the market through GOIL?
Again, government owes GOIL so much money that if they are not careful, they'll collapse GOIL. So government indebtedness to GOIL has also increased recently. They owe GOIL, they're not paying GOIL. So I don't think GOIL will be in a hurry. If you watch what's going on, GOIL is marching everybody boot for boot. So normally when the price do come out, GOIL will be a little bit price off the majors. So there are 4 companies that mainly do these high prices. Normally GOIL will stay a step out of them. Now GOIL is matching them number for number. So GOIL also feels that, look, you guys are not doing us any favors.
So there's no hope for us, is there?
Well, the only hope is to, one, try and find Forex for the OMCs and the BDCs. It's as simple as that. I don't know why people think that there's a conversation around that. We need Forex.
Okay.
They need Forex, one, to pay their bills. They need a rate at which they can sell to you and I. Without a guaranteed rate, they are not able to now be able to fix a price. You remember that in between the window, we had the last window, and in between the window, there was a price hike. Now, at the end of the window, there's another price hike. The reason being that nobody knows what the forward rate is. We don't know. So all the conversations going on. Last week, Monday, there was a meeting between the Ministry of Energy, MPA, BOG, and the OMCs and BDCs. At the end of that meeting, on Tuesday to Wednesday, there was a price hike. It tells you that that meeting was inconclusive. Then we've had all the conversations with all the AGIs and all the conversations saying that, oh, the cedi is appreciating. If the cedi is appreciating and the government really believes that the cedi is appreciating, don't you think that they, in government businesses, will probably put the dollar to like 11 or 12? It's not. Today, I went to Registrar General, the dollar is 14. At Registrar General, the dollar is 14.
In spite of the BOG.
Well, that's my point. No, but the BOG, the banks, Bank of America, Bank of Africa, is doing 14.9. Zenith Bank is doing 14.4. So the banks are not reducing their prices.
If it's a problem with Forex, we've depended on some of the very recent ones. We talk about the Afrism, the very latest one being the cocoa syndicator. Some experts predicted that it was going to be a flash in the pan. Indeed, that's what it is becoming.
Yes,
because we're going back to the range of 14, as you're pointing out.
Right. But because you know the fundamental...
But the president is hopeful that by December, the IMF bailout may be worked out.
Okay, look.
That could be our way out.
Let me disappoint him. I've always given this analogy, and I don't know who is advising the president. And this is the truth. You have a diarrhea, and the diarrhea is caused by an infection. Okay? You take Imodium, and then what the Imodium does is what? It plugs you. It stops the diarrhea. Imodium does not fix the infection. So you need antibiotics to fix the infection. In this scenario, IMF is the Imodium. IMF is not antibiotics. The debt sustainability plan that everybody keeps talking about is that you have huge expenditure outlay, which is unsustainable as compared to the debt you have. So now you want to spend so much money in undertaking some projects. Looking at the debt you have, you are not going to get enough revenue to be able to do what? Pay your debt. Right. If you go ahead and do even these projects, then it makes it worse. So to start with, the bottom line to start with is that, look, scrap a lot of these expenditures that you want to do. Last year, November, Kujopoku said that this. What? The Minister of Finance went to the floor of the House and read the budget. The budget said what? It said that I am going to spend 150 billion Ghana cedis. Right. Nobody thought it was outrageous, right? The previous year, his total revenue was 68 billion, 70 billion at best.
Yeah, but it's always been the case.
No, but the point, but you see,
but it's always been
revenue. If somebody have outruns in revenue, that's fine. But you can't have outruns in expenditure. So if you are telling me that you're going to spend 150 billion and your possible revenue, physical cash you can collect in this country is only 70 billion, it means you want to now 80 billion more in borrowing. Meanwhile, you've borrowed other monies that you are not paying. Right. So the question is that, look, fundamentally, what this country needs is that we need to come and stand in front of the camera and tell Ghanaians that these projects are not going to happen because we can't afford them. That's the fundamental. I don't know why. You see, in the president's speech, he talked about, let me land on this. Okay. The presidency, he talked about bridging the infrastructure gap. Right. We have been trying to do that, and by so doing, we are bankrupting the nation. That infrastructure gap is unfortunate that Ghana is where we are without certain things. But we can't push it through, and as a result, make you and I, our life difficult, which is what's happening.
But this is where some are of the opinion that if you have a government that is more prudent with its expenditure, then we can cut down on some areas and use and have more fiscal space to do more.
Yes.
The president says, I'm retaining the 30% cut on public spending, and also he goes ahead to even touch the salaries of some of his appointees. Okay. It's enough indication that this government has that posture of cutting back, isn't it?
So the truth is in the numbers. Okay, the analysts will sit down and say, okay, the 30% cut is what? 30% cut in salaries is what? Then if it's a drop in the ocean as compared to what you really need to do, then everybody will tell, look, you are not doing the right thing. Maybe if the 30% is maybe a big slash of your expenditure, then everybody will clap and say, okay, you're showing intent. But you realize that nobody believes what's happening because look, in the Bahamas time, we had similar situation. The minute we talked about IMF, the whole thing normalized and the city stabilized because people now...
confidence.
No, it wasn't confidence. The fact that the IMF thing, everybody, then it was the first time that, okay, we're going to IMF, blah, blah, blah. So Ghanaians were like, okay, fine. This is the case where this problem started way back in February. We've been talking about this since February. The first time that we got downgraded, we couldn't go back into the market. Straight away, we knew we had a problem. We knew we had a problem.
But we had the assurance from the finance minister that...
they didn't want to go to IMF. Then we fought over e-levy, that e-levy was a panacea and it was going to be the akubam for everything that we needed, which didn't happen, right? Today, we've now gone a full circle. So if I'm the president, one, the few things you were told was that we didn't need IMF and we can solve this problem with e-levy and all those things, right? How did all of a sudden IMF become the solution? Let's ask ourselves that. If we didn't need IMF and everything was fine.
It was the finance minister's word against that of the president he was serving.
Well, let's assume the president is the final decision maker. Let's assume they all take responsibility together. Now we go into IMF. Like I said, the IMF is only the Imodium. The antibacterial the antibacterial you need to take to take us from the bottom to start looking at growth and give investor confidence is that people will see that you have cut back. Put it this way, we overspent before election. The investors knew that, okay? We overspent before election. The investors knew that, but that same year we also had pandemic. If you've listened to the country director for IMF, he said that, look, in every pandemic, countries overspend, and it's acceptable. But what is not acceptable is that to try and outspend the money you spent in a pandemic year, which is what we tried to do. In 2020, we overspent. The investors knew that. They gave us a bludge. 2021, we read a budget. But then what we tried to do is now outspend how much we spent in the pandemic year, and also coupled with elections. So the investors are like, look, these guys don't have a plan to get themselves out of this borrow. That issue of you can borrow yourself out of debt, in Ghana, it doesn't work.
There's a process in Parliament as we speak, asking for the removal of the finance minister. We've heard the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagmin, comment on this. He says, just triggering that parliamentary process alone of removing Ken Ofori-Atta as the finance minister brought some level of undulation in the performance of the Ghana cedi. Immediately the process was started and MPs, 80 of the majority MPs announced their decision to back that. The cedi then came down marginally. It's gone back to where it is now. And the Speaker's opinion is that when the finance minister is removed, we may solve part of our problems.
Well, we've had a similar instance in the UK, right? Kwesi Kwarteng. Kwesi Kwarteng became finance minister, made some statements, right? And straight away the pound went nosediving to the point where it was 1-to-1 to the US, which is historical, unprecedented. Then, look, we all saw that it hadn't bounced back. Then there was a push for him to resign. Kwesi Kwarteng resigned. And what happened? The cedi went back up. The pound went back up. Now, with Liz Truss going and Rishi Sunak becoming prime minister, the pound is appreciated. It tells you that investor confidence is key. If investors have lost confidence in an individual, okay, and I was surprised when everybody was like, oh, leave him to finish the negotiation. I would have thought that whoever you had in mind to be finance minister after Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta would be in there now to do the final leg of the negotiation so he can implement it. If Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta finished the negotiation and then leave in January, then what? Somebody comes in and supervises what? Meanwhile, you know what I'm saying? So for me, the transition would have been, okay, He's going to be there, but I am appointing this person to take over from him. Let him be part. So we all know who is going to be the finance minister. Right. He's going to be part of the negotiation team so that we can transition well. We need that confidence with the investors. Government alone cannot bring in the required dollars to fix this problem. The investors need to have confidence in our nation to feel that it's a destination again. Right now, nobody feels confident to come into the country.
And we need to go, but of course, for many, this is a sign that your political party, the NPP, is not faring well. And that you may have a hard time going into the next elections. You want to lead the party.
Doing very well.
Well, I'll give you the opportunity now as we wrap up. To tell us exactly what you intend to do when you're giving that opportunity.
Okay,
to
so let me correct that statement. Those in Jubilee House, are not all from MPP. The government was formed by people from MPP, but the MPP
it's
party,
your government.
No, that's fine. It's an MPP government, but you said you didn't add that. You said the MPP is not faring well, which is not the same thing.
MPP, but I'm not sure you're faring well.
I am faring well. I'm not in government.
Party.
No, the party is in the party head office is at Abraka. We are doing very well. The chairman is in team.
He's issued a statement.
The Jubilee House,
he says he's aware of some tensions within the party simply because of the removal of
the point I'm making is that the party is doing well. Your statement was that the party is not bad.
It's your word against mine.
Well, that's fine, but the party has not done anything to anybody. The party just elected a beautiful chairman and a very vibrant general secretary.
And your finance minister is not faring well?
No, the government's finance minister is not the party's finance minister. Let's move on from that. What I want to get across to you that if I'm given the mandate to lead the party, right, we're going to do a few things different. We're going to make sure that basically you've seen the 5 pointers that are put in to make sure that we get upstream because look, most of these debt that we have, we didn't get into that debt because we thought the taxes would pay for it. We thought upstream, crude oil, if we go by now, it should have been around 500,000 barrels a day. Right. That will pay for it. Look at some of the social interventions that are not doing well, cut them down. Infrastructure, cut them down. And basically let the Ghanaians admit that we're a poor nation, live according to our means, okay? Like the normal saying, cut your coat according to your cloth. So we are going to now look at, let not politicians or MPs go around the nation promising things that we can't deliver. Let's save. If we save money as a nation, and our savings is enough to back our currency, then everybody's standard of living will be lower because the city will have value. Then we can now save money from all these interest we are paying on our loans, use that money to do all the things we want to do.
Well, what will you tell the president? If when was the last time you met him, and what
if I to meet him and to ask me my opinion? Basically, just make sure that you bring some confidence into your government. Remove immediately most of the ministers who are not performing, and there's quite a number of them that are not performing. And those that have ambitions, which he knows about, let them go and start, because that's what they are doing anyway. They are going around campaigning, so everybody knows who they are, and they are campaigning. So let them go. Bring in fresh blood, and we have 2 years. And that 2 years, the government can do something that Ghanaians will be proud of.
Kujapoko, are you looking for an appointment?
Nope.
Okay. You don't want to serve?
I wouldn't. No. It's not I don't want to serve, but at this stage, if the car
if you were asked to be the finance minister,
I don't want any appointment. If the car is already in the ditch, the wheels are up, a 4x4 can help you. So already that's the problem.
Anyway, Kujapoko is an energy expert, also aspiring to lead the NPP. Escalating food prices continue to rock the budget in Ghanaian homes as well. There's more in the latest series of Living Standard series.
Bernice, a mother of 6, is dazed by the raising prices of groceries at the Makala market. She came from Pokwase to get some items for her home, but realized her budget of 1,000 cedis could only buy a few items off her list. She's upset and vents her frustration. I got closer so I could listen to her.
The prices are now double. It is not good. Where is the kaya? Bring the items. I came with 1,000 cedis, but I've only bought tomatoes, Pepsodent. This Pepsodent was 8 cedis last week. Now it is 16 cedis. Why? Tomatoes used to be 20 cedis, but now it is 60 cedis.
The mother of 6 had to get cooking oil, but her preferred size was unavailable. her gloomy mood worsened. According to her, the oil vendor said the price of the next consignment has already been increased even before it arrives in the shop. So Bernice will have to increase her cooking oil budget on her next market trip.
When was the last time I was at market?
Last week, Last week, I was here to get rice and oil. The sachet oil was 22 cedis. But today, she tells me it is now 45 cedis. Look at what is remaining of the 1,000 cedis I came with. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need oil. I hope it will be sufficient. Otherwise, I will go home.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Christmas is about 8 weeks away, but Bernice says VALCO may replace the usual rice meals if the prices on the market do not fall.
Now, rice is expensive, so I am very angry. As for this Christmas, unless Akufo-Addo and Bawumia do something about the prices, we will eat banku and pepper until things get better.
Wow.
I bumped into Mabel Mensah, a 46-year-old single mother who is at her wit's end. She was yelling at the traders to cut down their prices. Mabel is also a trader and so understands that fuel and the depreciation of the cedi have forced prices to rise. But she believes traders are taking advantage of the current economic woes. She explained that her budget for her groceries had tripled, especially oil and rice.
I
used to buy a small bottle of oil for 70 Ghana cedis, but now it is 270 Ghana cedis. What the shop owners are doing is not good. Even if it is the dollar, you cannot increase the price over 200 Ghana cedis. Why?
What do we call 250 cedis?
Well, this year, food inflation is up by close to threefolds from 13.7% at the beginning of the year to 37.8% in September, mainly because Ghana's economy is import-driven. The Makala market is no exception. Both imported and local products have been bitten by the inflation bag. But is it the case that traders may be modifying the prices? Cooking oil trader Irene lays the blame squarely at the doors of importers.
The consumer thinks we are the cause. No. It is not we who are selling.
Who should we blame then?
I buy from an importer. Okay. So the importer brings me price. I can't sell below the importer's price. It means that I'm not in business. Right now, we are selling to replace stock, not to make profit.
Okay.
You understand? We are selling to replace stock, not to make profit. It's a big challenge and pathetic because you don't know what the future holds for us at all. I can't see a joyous Christmas coming at all unless something is done.
Her colleague Victoria claims she hadn't increased her prices for a month because of her customers. But then the prices keep soaring. Victoria quotes her prices to us.
But 4 months ago, na anwa gallon, 450. Say no, 10 gallon we no.
Wait, 950. 950.
The gallon of oil now costs 950. This was 220. But now 400. We are told it's the dollar. Everyone says dollar. Tomatoes is dollar. Okro is dollar. Kontomire is dollar. They need to fix it.
And those say dollar. Meko say dollar. Jene say dollar. And Kuma say dollar. Kontomire po say dollar. Into Omunche say dollar no. Na amani nyina akosu sana. Omunche no.
Joyce Boache came from Suhum in the eastern region to buy rice for her shop. But after a 2-hour trip to Accra, she had to return because prices had gone up.
And I'm 4 million plus.
I came to buy rice, but the price is high. Last week, the type I bought was 520 cedis, but it has changed. I don't have a choice. I have to go back. I even went to Agoblushi to buy meat, but it was a similar situation. The prices are up, so I couldn't buy.
So you won't buy some car buying a bit in stores because the prices never cost and I'm Phyllis if you want oh baby. I buy any more in Kakrana, Yamana prices and because unless I'm quite blushing, I'm a copy and I'm a cost on so and I'm meant to be on top and also the sunshine.
The mother of 5 says even in Suhum, living standards have soared.
It's also sending a new Maya corner, the cost of living is too high. And I had them pass a view, young fans of what you bussy now the year, Juma. Over then, what's ya?
Life is not easy. 2 of my children are on their way to the university. The cost of living is high. If I should take a loan, how will I pay? Even for a working woman like me, it is not easy. So imagine those without work. How will they survive? Government must do something. We are hoping that getting by Christmas, things will change.
Oh, Christmas
Martin manages Elike trading with her sister. For 10 years, they've been retailing rice, sugar and oil. Their shop arguably pegs prices at a reasonable level, but they have also been compelled to increase their prices. Martin says some of their customers no longer come to the shop.
Things are difficult these days, even for retailers, because if your customers cannot afford your goods, how would the business grow? Our prices range between 350 and 600 per bag of rice.
It will be 560. It will be 600. I say 600. At present, 600, only 600. But the big watch answer.
And the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is expected to, as part of measures, arrest the increasing prices of farm produce, facilitate transportation of food from the farm gates to Accra and other urban centres. The move, according to the Agric Minister, Dr. Owusu Koto-Efrie, is expected to bring what he calls a bumper harvest close to the urban consumers to make prices competitive.
The Sehirioso area of the Western North region is touted as a large-scale plantain growing community aside cocoa. After engaging the farmers on the tour, Sector Minister Owusu Efrie says the ministry will now be directly involved in the purchasing and supply to consumers and the special program aimed at price stabilization.
If you say, Mumubako Kasano, say free, body free, a foam, a back, say we also are crying. A bedroom has another born about whom you know. Until we chamo concrete, that is a bohu bedu, and as Santana AC, until one can say, a Dianini, a hobby brace.
The price of food in Accra is so high. One of you said the price of plantain from the farm gate to Sehirioso here increases about 3-fold. How about when they are taken to Accra? That can increase by 10-fold. So those in Accra think there is no food, but there is a lot of food around, as you know. We only have to ensure that we get the price reduced for the people in Accra. So the ministry from next week will transport food to the ministry to sell to the people there.
Minister of Food and Agriculture. No, I better now who say, Western North for the name feeding craft for them.
The minister pledged government continuous support to deal with the issue.
We can't be a fast and so on. Macacheno, you be man a bemo, Namusmo Jumanesia Cosrono. May Shamobo say, Yabeamam.
All that you have told us about what the ministry can do to enhance your work, we will do it. I am promising you that we will do that for you. I want to applaud you for the incredible work you've done here in the Western North.
Who say, Kuyayo region Hano, a Kosopa, a Kosora, me bomba basso, some ay juma, ding, a juma kesiesa.
Some of these food growers explained what more must be done to elevate food growing in the region.
Now we are not establishing for them 1,300. Yari see wolo for veterinary of a trade program. To be frank, once I'm on Jamaica, I work at car money. You go to Kumasi and you have to go to Kumasi. Yes, the band of friends said that and how the one who know to be frank, I am here. TV star, the regional director of the new. Say, veterinary story here, what the region average will be my. Say, and some thing has Woko Kumasi. The only private car, how they drop is that Woko Kumasi ground panel. And yourself, it's here, you have a patrol.
And you're watching the Pulse on the JoyNews channel. Still to come, workers of timber-based Volta Aluminium Company, VALCO, call for investigations and allegations of malfeasance and corruption at the entity. Here on the Pulse, we'll get the latest for you as JoyNews is learning Gridco has cut power supply to VALCO. We'll get you the latest shortly. Please stay.
VALCO workers deserve better. The accounts have a balance. A didijawohui, a demuna, and a nam.
An easy calm at timber-based Volta Aluminium Company, VALCO, following the decision by the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, to cut power supply to the main facility producing the plant. Now, VALCO, with the capacity to produce some 200,000 metric tons per annum of aluminium products, ranks amongst the large primary aluminium producers in the world. But today it's a ghost town, but more instructive is the claim that it will require over $10 million to bring the over 120 cells back to life after power was cut last night. Chairperson of the local workers union, Edgar Tete, has been addressing the press on matters.
Exchange-based entity, and the foreign exchange it rakes in goes a long way in supporting the economy. As we speak, most of the retired top management personnel have continued to occupy company houses since retiring, blocking access to others to also enjoy same. Additionally, we have two retired department directors heading the maintenance department. The unthinkable explanation is that one of them heads mechanical related issues and the other electrical matters. Mr. Dana Jampon and Mr. Festus Kwedu, in particular, have shown no love and commitment to improving the lives of the non-management employees. Our retired top management people uphold Kaiser's compensation system for themselves and their wives. They have changed the Tier 3 system and have placed the blackmail on it once we speak for its reversal. Salary and promotions for several non-management staff have been delayed unfairly for several years, leading to agitations. Employment of relatives. Well opener has been unnecessarily delayed as a result of bad faith on the part of management. Management has chosen shutdown over increment of salary for non-management. Financial malfeasance everywhere without any investigations. One retired army colonel in the company called in from the military, on us yesterday, the military, who mercilessly harassed and reported, One army colonel in the company called in the military on us yesterday, who mercilessly harassed the TV3 reporter and Joy FM reporter. Mr. President, the local union is calling for a full-scale investigation into incidents that led to the unnecessary and rather unfortunate shutdown of the lives of millions of Ghanaians, and the perpetrators must be brought to book to serve as a deterrent to others.
Well, JoyNews is Benjamin Akakpo is joining us via phone. For more on this, Ben, and you've been there throughout today, I mean, the early parts. What can you report as to what the situation is there right now? Ben, if you can hear me, I'm just asking about the latest. Ben, can you hear me? I'm just asking about the latest there.
Hello, Blessed. I can hear you. Can you repeat the question?
I was just asking about the latest. Has power been restored to the facility?
Power has not been restored. As the workers tell me, in fact, I've been interacting with the union chairman, Edgar Tete, and he makes mention of the fact that power was cut per what information they gather by or on order of the CEO, Dan Echampong. And since that time, power has not been restored. Interestingly, he makes the point that other auxiliary functions, electricity functions of the company were left intact. So officers could have connectivity to electricity in terms of lighting, air conditioning, and all of that. But the main area where they process the aluminium, that is the rectifier, where the cells was affected. And again, just to reiterate, they tell me, I spoke with a former vice chairman of the union together with the current chair of the labor union there, and they both concur that it was the CEO, per what information they gathered, that is Danny Champong, who ordered Gridco to disconnect power to the plant. And they also see it as a sort of display of power by the CEO. They also make the point, just to add, that it seems there is some sort of clique of retirees who have taken over the place, some of them 67. The CEO, they say, is 67 years, the deputy CEO, 68. And they're saying all of these people have nothing to lose, and so they are taking all sorts of decisions at VALCO that do not inure to their benefit. So that is the latest. Power has not been restored, but the workers are still showing up at work. In fact, when I went there at the premises of VALCO today, a lot of them had congregated there. They found their way to work, though the company that picks them up and shuttles them to work did not show up today, but they have showed up there. They say there's been no formal communication in terms of whether work should come to a pause for now, because once the cells are not working, and we've spoken about them, 127 of them, once they have been shut down, no can continue. But they are showing up because there's also a policy that if you don't show up to work for 5 days, you automatically sack yourself from the office. So those are some of the latest developments. But they are saying, when I spoke to Tete, the head of the labor union, he said they are not going to back down on this. They are going to follow through to its logical conclusion. They have met today with the ICU together with top management, but there was no clarity in terms of outcome. And so they are just waiting to see what happens in the coming days.
And how about the amount involved in restoring the operations of the company?
So one cell, restoring one cell would cost $100,000, just one. Now we're talking 127 of them. If you do the computation, that would amount to over $12.7 million. The interesting bit there, Blessed, is that they are saying the wage restoration, not an increment in wages. What they have been calling for is, and everything done by VALCO, by the way, is dollarized. So whatever equipment, whatever inputs they get as VALCO, it is paid for in dollars. When they produce the aluminium and it's being sold, it is sold in dollars. The remuneration also is in dollars. However, for the staff, this remuneration is given to them in CD equivalent. However, that equivalent has not been given to them over time. So, for example, if someone should get $300, now with the dollar appreciating against the CD, they expect that they would be given parity, equivalent sum. That is what has not happened, and that is what has culminated in the situation we are seeing currently. And so that is what they are calling for. But in terms of the cost, it's going to cost over $12.7 million, while the wage restoration that they are calling for would have amounted to something little more than $1 million.
So does it look like operations may resume anytime soon?
It does not look like that. I do not know about the access to funding, because I put a question to them about how soon this could be done. But they say that even if the money is immediately available, it's going to take a lot of technical work, a lot of man hours to get the cells back to life, to get the plant back on its feet.
Anyway, we'd have to leave it here. I'm grateful for your time. Benjamin Akapo, host of the AM show on the Joy News channel. Time now to talk about education. The fast pace at which prices of food items are shooting up is taking a toll on the colleges of education around the country, as they are unable to feed teacher trainees. Now, principals of the colleges say that the situation has been compounded by the inability of government to increase feeding grants to schools across the country. And JoyNews has cited a letter by the principals to the Education Ministry intending to surcharge or perhaps offload the cost to the students. So let's bring in now the people who are helping us do this discussion. Larry Kiabado is editor of the Colleges of Education Weekly Journal. Peter Partis with education think tank IFES. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time here on the Pulse. I'd want to start off with you, Larry. The issue about feeding grants, how is it usually dealt with at the college level?
All right, thank you very much, Blessed, and good afternoon to you and your cherished viewers across the country. So on the issue of the feeding grants for colleges, government pays an amount of 50 pesos per student to the college, which is used as a feeding for each trainee in the 46 public colleges of education. Now, this 50 pesos contains their breakfast, their lunch, and then their supper, which the principals and then the students themselves are asking government for an upward increment, because they saw that looking at the current economic condition that we find ourselves in as a country, 6 cities is woefully inadequate to cater for feeding for breakfast, lunch, supper for these individuals that we are talking about.
And now the Prink office having some hard time. They're asking that they be allowed to charge the students. Will that be allowed? I mean, looking at what it is, the norm and the practices at the college level.
All right, so I think Prink off, it will be difficult for Prink off to just get up and then do the students or increase the feeding fee rate for the students without the approval of government, that is through the Ministry of Education and then the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. And that is why they wrote that to the minister and said, looking at the current situation, they will want the students to fend for themselves, which I'm not sure will be possible, because, government is also bent on catering for the feeding of these student teachers. You saw how government was resolute with the issue of payment of trainee teachers allowance in the past 5 to 6 years. So it's not something I'm not sure government will back down on anytime soon. Even the students themselves are not ready to give up on the issue of their student teachers allowance. So at this moment, we are in quite a difficult situation, because we all know what we are going through as a country, and an upward increment in the feeding fee, though it's justifiable, because just imagine you using 50 pesos to feed an individual for 3 times in a day. You can understand the situation of the principals. Probably they are magicians, but this is the situation we are faced with.
And then we understand that stakeholders recently converged over these similar matters confronting the colleges of education. Why is it taking such a long time for government to act?
All right, so stakeholders in July this year converged in Accra for a national dialogue, which this matter was thoroughly discussed. Unfortunately, the issue at hand it's a dicey one because I think my colleague panel on the show this afternoon, Mr. Peter Ansi was there, and you see, because of the political nature of the issue, especially with regards to the payment of the training teachers account, it's difficult to take the feeding component out until we get to a time where a government comes in and says, look, I'm scrapping the training teachers allowance. We are going to continue to be in this situation. So probably we just have to face it head on. And even before we can take up this issue of feeding, we should be able to put in place the measures that the students will be able to feed themselves. Because when we met for this national dialogue a few months ago, the students were saying that, look, until government puts in infrastructure such as a hostel system where the students can cook or provide that feeding for themselves, the issue of feeding should be solely handled by the college. The current situation in the colleges is that the students are residents in dormitories, so it doesn't make room for them to engage in the activities of cooking. So at the national dialogue, they made their stance clear that, look, until government provides hostel facilities where they themselves can take up the issue of cooking, the colleges and for that matter, government should provide feeding for them.
Let's hear from Peter Pate, who was also there when that engagement took place. Peter, welcome to The Pulse. And here we are today. It appears that increasingly it's becoming a challenge for the principals of the colleges of education to try and provide food. So where do we go from here in terms of the policy considerations?
No, the solution. Just that those who are close with the authority to take that particular decision are not willing to do that. So at this stage, we should just wait for the ministry to solve the food shortage problem that they say is the reason why the PRINCOF has written this letter. And then we'll go back to what we are already practicing, because this is not the first time the principals are complaining about this. This is not the second time. It's been on and off. We've complained about this at the national dialogue. We said that this is not the way to go. And so the minister was there the next day, and he indicated that government is willing and able and committed to paying the allowance and feeding the students. And they are those clothed with the power. So I think that we should allow them to continue to pursue the path that they have decided to pursue, and hope that maybe one day somebody will listen to the analysis and the policy propositions that have come from civil society organizations like mine.
You did that engagement in July. What were some of the key recommendations at the time as to what the options should be?
Yeah, so one of the things that we said was that we converted the training colleges to colleges of education in 2012. And one of the things that we should have done was to walk them through a transition period, a period through which most of the practices on campus would have been abolished by this time. And interestingly, we have graduated a first batch of tertiary, college of education students. At the same time, the college of education now falls under GTEC. So technically, in all angles, these are tertiary education students. So the major proposition from all the panelists that dealt with this issue, I think except the rep from TTAC, was to make sure that the students are put on the student loan, that the students would now fend themselves, and also certain practices on campus. I heard the other colleague on the line talking about hostels and dormitory and other things. Those things, when to sleep, when to wake up, we should start treating them as tertiary students so that they will not come back and say that they are treated different and therefore they do not qualify to be put on the student loan. We felt that that was the way to go. And then we commit ourselves to now using the money that we are using to pay them to expand infrastructure and make sure that the colleges of education are good places to train the teachers. These were some of the things that we talked about. But the next day, the minister was there, and he said that they are committed to still paying the allowances and feeding the students, and he got the power. So we should, although we can make propositions, and these propositions date back to 2015, 2016. Okay, but this is where we are now, and it's political. It's political. So I think that those who've got the power, they think there's a better way to handle it, and we should allow them to do it.
Okay, just hold on for us, Peter. I want to bring in Larry at this point. The government is giving assurances, at least through the PR for the Education Ministry. We've seen an official post indicating that government was working to supply food to all of these schools. What reports are you picking up, and are you able to confirm if these supplies are getting to all of the colleges? Larry, if you're with us, you'd have to unmute so we can get a point you're making.
Okay, so the issue here is that government doesn't supply food to the colleges. Government actually provides funds to the colleges, that is, to the management of the college, and they take the step of procuring foodstuffs to feed these students. What the principals are actually requesting for is that they say the 6 cedis 50 pesos per head to feed them for the whole day is woefully inadequate, and they are asking for an increment. Now, government, on the other hand, is yet to come out to indicate whether they are going to increase this rate as the principals are requesting. Few weeks ago, I got information that the principals were requesting that, I stand to be corrected, they were requesting that the feeding fee be increased to somewhere 30 cedis, 25, 30 cedis or so. And if you look at the number of students we have in the colleges, 25, 30 cedis per head to feed students is quite okay, but providing such funds to feed the students is not going to be an easy task. It's not going to be easy at all. As Mr. Auntie said a few minutes ago, look, we've gone through a lot of transformation for the colleges. We've gotten to a point that just last week, the first cohort of BHED student teachers from the colleges graduated. They all came out from college. And they are just like colleagues from Minibar UCC. But we are feeding them, we are paying them a monthly allowance. It's time we take that bold step and say, look, let's allow the full tertiary status for the colleges put in place. Because we don't have the funds to feed them. We don't have the funds to pay them the allowance they are requesting for. So it's quite a bold decision that has to be taken. But we don't have that power to take such a decision. And we are in a very tight situation right now.
In terms of the students and those who are on campus now, how will that affect them? Are the principals indicating that they would be able to buy some time at least, provide the food for a while, and then in the coming months supplies may have to halt?
Okay, I think the principals gave an ultimatum, but from the information I'm gathering, I think the ministry is actually making frantic efforts to get the situation addressed. Because currently we have, one or 2 year groups currently on campus studying. And the principals are also in a very tight corner because suppliers are on their neck. In fact, these days you go to most of the colleges and it's like the principals and then the finance officers are running a shift system. When the principal is on campus, the finance officer is not on campus. When the finance officer is on campus, the principal is not also on campus. Because when the two of them are there, the suppliers end up troubling them. So I'm sure with the information I'm picking in the coming days, I'm sure the ministry will see how best they can address the situation. But we should look forward to having a long-term solution In just a matter of 2 or 3 months, we've seen Prinkov take these steps. I think this is the second or third time. This is not the first of its kind that Prinkov has written this letter to the ministry. And we can't keep solving this issue and in 1 or 2 months' time we come back with the same situation again. Let's look at the long-term plan. And the long-term plan is allowing the colleges to operate on their own.
Okay, thanks, Larry. But let's wrap up with Peter. Peter, so where do we go from here in terms of the immediate steps that government has to take to redress this?
The education sector should be scientifically driven. We know that, yes, it should have a political backing, but sometimes we also have to understand that if we are not careful, in our pace to score political points, we are destroying the foundation of which our education system is built on. I think that the ministry and those in charge should have a sober reflection of what is happening and admit that the way to go is not what we are currently experiencing. I don't know for how long would they wait for Prinkov to always prompt them, for them to come out with a press release and then indicate that they are going to solve it. We run educational systems like that, and I hope that going forward, they will do a reflection and pay heed to most of the proposals that have been given to them and in terms of financing colleges of education in Ghana. I think that is the best way to go. They have the power, they have the authority to implement decisions, and I think that when they are able to do a thorough reflection of the policies that they are implementing in the colleges of education, they will come to the realization that there are more feasible alternatives that will save the pressure on government and on the ministry, and will also make the students feel at home and prevent this problem of always complaining about feeding in our colleges of education. The call is up to them, and we hope that they will take the right decision for the future of education in this country, especially teacher education.
Thanks to Larry and Peter for joining us here on The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. Let's take you to Parliament. The minority there says they will not back down on their motion of censure seeking to remove the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. The motion, which is currently listed on the order paper, is a notice that will actually be ripe for debate next week. Speaking on the floor of the House today, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu declared that his side will see the motion to its logical conclusion and called on the New Patriotic Party MPs to support the move.
This side, we do not have the minimum threshold to succeed in a censure. But I'm also well aware that voting on this matter will be secret and will be by secret ballot. And I'm aware that there are reasonable people opposite the aisle who share our position but are afraid to be seen offending the president because the Minister of Finance has become his small god. His small God. He is not our God. I will count on my colleagues opposite who have demonstrated publicly, and I trust that they will not abandon ship. When the president spoke to the country, or this campaign to which that money doesn't like noise, he demonstrated his proficiency in the language of Ga, Twi, and French. Mr. Speaker, I have between today and 10th November to move the motion, and I will move the motion. I will move the motion for the censure of the Honorable Minister for Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. Those like-minded persons who will dance with us, Mr. Speaker, they will be welcome in the secret ballot. I told the majority leader that I can understand his situation. He is confronted with the witches' dance. If he dances forward, the mother dies. He goes backwards, the father dies. He himself knows that the Honorable Minister for Finance is not performing and cannot perform and cannot deliver us out of the economic woes. But the witches' dance, he doesn't want to be seen trying to torpedo the man to act as Minister for Finance. But we may get there. He will go and someone will act. I've asked him. He says commitment that the man will go after budget and he will go after IMF. Do you know when the IMF negotiations will end? And after budget, we know 31st December. Bring a formal commitment. Bring a formal commitment telling this House that the Honorable Minister for Finance will, by 31st December, bow out in conscience that he has trashed the Ghanaian economy. But Mr. Speaker, as for this motion, I am determined so long as I live and I'm alive. And I've issued a 9-line whip 3 times 3. All my members, even if we are defeated on this motion, we will be defeated in honor and in dignity, standing with the Ghanaian people who are suffering.
And responding to the minority leader, Majority Leader Osei-Chairman Sabunso indicated that they will continue to dialogue with the NDC MPs to find common grounds on the matter.
The Speaker, the minority leader is insistent that where we are in a witch's dance. If we dance forward, we may lose our father. If we dance backwards, we may lose our mother. The Speaker, who tells him that we cannot dance laterally or horizontally without going forward or coming backwards? Who tells him that? He must define his coordinates well. To the extent that we have a backwards dance and a forward dance, there's a lateral dance and a horizontal dance. You must be aware of that. Mr. Speaker, the minority leader is saying that he wants some assurance that maybe the finance minister may be on the 31st of December. And if he has that assurance, he may think that it may not then be necessary to pursue this. It's a window of opportunity that is creating. Mr. Speaker, we are in dialogue, we are talking, we are trying to see the best way to dialogue.
Our Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Apenyi-Markin says he still has concerns about the propriety of the motion of censure as listed in the order paper, despite the Speaker overruling him last week.
There is a provision under the Article 82 which requires the minister to be heard in his defense. Mr. Speaker, my issue is if the finance minister elects to bring a counsel to respond on his behalf, which is his constitutional bona fide, what do we do? Because under contempt proceedings, we have discussed. Yes. The Speaker, they always want to divert attention. An important matter has been raised. Let's finish with that, then we can deal with ex-cathedral issues. Mr. Speaker, the question is, if the Minister of Finance elects to exercise his rights under the Constitution to employ the services of counsel, how do we treat it as a House? Mr. Speaker, it is his right and his far right. And I'm drawing our attention to it so that on the day we don't meet our cul-de-sac. Because, Mr. Speaker, under our own jurisprudence on contempt, we allow the contemnor, the respondent contemnor, to be represented by counsel. And we have precedence in that. Because he is entitled to be heard. Right to fair hearing is a sine qua non thing. You cannot take it away from a respondent in a matter.
And we'll get you some updates. But for now, the management of Metro Mass Transit says the increases in fuel prices are seriously affecting the operations of the company. According to management, they are considering reviewing their fares to enable them stay afloat. The Metro Mass Transit, in spite of the fuel price increments, has not increased their prices for the past 2 years.
This is the Metro Mass Transit's main office here in Accra. In the wake of the fuel prices, there are many conversations about an effective public transport system. How effective
is our public transport. The corporate affairs manager of Metromas, George Krobia Santi, to discuss with him how this place is being run, whether they have an effective fleet, what challenges do they have?
We know the kind of situation we all find ourselves these days, and the rampant increment of fuel and petroleum products prices is affecting everybody. It's affecting travelers, it's affecting everybody, market women and what have you. So it's about time we need to pay serious attention to public transport such as ours. And for instance, in Metromas, since these fuel prices started changing, we've not reviewed our fares. It is now that management we are looking forward to actually also up our fares a bit so that we can keep the company running. Because other than that, there's no way we will be able to keep the company in business.
So you are also, struggling with the fuel prices, and you've not even increased your fares?
You see, within this year alone, there have been, like, if I'm not wrong, fuel or petroleum product has changed for like consecutive number of times, not less than 5 times. And we've not reviewed our fares. We're still taking the old fares.
And just before we wrap up, staying safe and ensuring that all safety precautions are taken both at home and work is not by chance. It requires some conscious effort from everyone. The 2022 edition of the National Intermines First Aid and Safety Competition is here again. Winners of the zonal competitions: Ghana Magnese Company, Perseus Mining Ghana Limited, Gold Star Wasa Resources, and also Goldfields Ghana Takwa Mines will battle it out for the national level this Sunday on the 6th of November 2022 at 11 a.m. It will be broadcast live on GTV and your favorite channel, JoyNews. Students from the host communities will also participate in an essay competition. Don't forget, it's part of the package. Winners of the essay contest will be rewarded with some awards on the in December 2022. So you need to be a part of it. It's all about knowledge in mining regulations and first aid measures in times of accidents, both at home and also at work. So choose to stay safe, not leave by chance. This message is also brought to you by the Ghana Chamber of Mines in collaboration with the Minerals Resource Commission and the St. John's Ambulance Ghana, and endorsed by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Well, that's all we have for you here on the Pulse on the JoyNews channel. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates for you there. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Please stay.